Welcome, everyone. This is the Take It Home podcast. I'm your host, John LaRocca, and this is a new show on the Fight Game Media Patreon. It'll be a 30-minute show, 30 to 40 minutes, as some of you might know from the Fight Game podcast on Wrestling Observer and the Figure 4 online and our Patreon 97 Raw reviews I do with Garrett. Sometimes I can get a little long-winded, but I'm going to try to keep it 30 minutes. And what this podcast is about, Take It Home podcast, is about reviewing and discussing some pro wrestling that's not normally discussed. A lot of people want to talk WWE. A lot of people want to talk AEW, of course. But I want to focus on Ring of Honor, a little Impact Wrestling, a WWE brand that's really not talked about, and it should be talked about more. NXT UK. When I have time to watch it, New Japan Strong, MLW, and some odds and ends stuff. I'll be whatever I watch, I'll cover here on this show. Some quick hits. Not going to go review a whole show. I'm going to take a match or two from the show that I watched and talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and yeah, let's get right to it. This week I watched Ring of Honor, I watched NXT UK, and I watched Impact Wrestling. So this will all be talking about those three things. And I know as this airs on, possibly on Saturday or Sunday, Friday, unfortunately, there's a lot of cuts with NXT, which is a real bummer, honestly, shocking in many cases. Especially, top of that list is Bronson Reed, was having a hell of a year, and one of my favorite moments of 2021 was he won the North American Championship from Johnny Gargano in that cage match. I thought that match was a really well done match, and I just think Bronson has it. It's unfortunate that WWE doesn't see that, but I think he's definitely gonna be someone else's gain. And I think in the long run, I know it sucks for those guys and gals now that were cut, but in the long run, they're all talented individuals, and they're gonna land somewhere. And I think it's just gonna make 2020, the rest of 2021 and 2022 and beyond, just a better year for pro wrestling. I think a lot of these promotions beyond just AEW, because a lot of people want to say, AEW is going to sign them off. And they have the money, they can do it if they really want to. But it wouldn't be a good thing because you don't want to have too much talent and not enough time to feature them. But I think it's going to be great to see these people help, spice up Ring of Honor, help new matches to MLW, same thing, and help with Impact as well. And various other promotions, also indies, once they start getting going. I know there are going here and there, but once, hopefully when this pandemic's over and people start running regular shows, I think the free agent markets that's happening now is definitely going to help those shows out, and some really good stuff. I also want to mention NWA as well. I will be discussing NWA, not on this show, but in the future. I am planning on watching Empower, their women's a special pay-per-view, and also the next day, the following NWA 73 pay-per-view. I'll definitely be covering those on this show as well. So let's get into it, this show here. The first one I watched was Ring of Honor. I watched on the Fight TV app. I watched on Monday nights, and this show featured 3 women's matches because they're doing a women's tournament to crown a new women's champion. And they did a little recap from the pay-per-view Best in the World, where they had Chelsea Green, who was injured and couldn't be cleared by the Baltimore Athletic Commission. So she had to just, say that she's going to be wrestling soon when she gets cleared. And, they had a nice little highlight of that. And this tournament didn't really start off that well. It was Miranda Elise, the Lucha Baddie, she calls herself, against Alex Gracia, who I've seen in AEW on Dark and some NWA stuff. This match was kind of weird. It just, they both trained in Texas, so they know each other, so they're locking up and smiling, and it's like you can play that role like you're friends and you're being competitive, but still look like it's a contest, and just smiling and just ha ha, you got one on me kind of stuff just didn't work. Lucha baddie Miranda Lee, she has a good look. She has a lot of fire, some attitude to her. I like her. Still pretty green. Same thing with Alex Gracia, very green. I mean, she's cute as a button. Really, just you want to root for her, but she is so green. These two start off some lucha stuff in the beginning, and it was like really bad lucha. The timing was off. I mean, I'm surprised like it didn't really make. I'm surprised it's made air. Or they didn't reshoot this because Ring of Honor, even though the Best in the World had fans at that pay-per-view, they're going to continue to do no fans tapings in Baltimore for the very near future, and because what's going on in the world, obviously, and I know people want fans back, and Ring of Honor they do a little different with the no fans. Like they actually have no like sweetening the crowd noise, no nothing like that, and it's kind of takes a while to get into because like really silent at points, and even though Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman are really great commentators, sometimes it can get really just quiet and kind of eerie. But this match here just wasn't connecting. Alex Gracia was just all over the place. At one point, she does like an Asai moonsault, but technically she's just going to turn into like a crossbody, and she like doesn't get her footing, and she crashes and burns hard. Oh man, it was nasty. And then the Lucha baddie turns it up, starts throwing her into the guardrail and everything, and at one point hits a knee, 1, 2, and actually Alex Gracia did not put her shoulder up, but she did kick out, and that looked really bad. I mean, Riccaboni really did a good job trying to cover it up, but I mean, it was clear as day that she must have got her bell rung or something and did not get her shoulder up. But Miranda Lee's end up winning, and I think that was the best bet because she's definitely well ahead of Alex Gracia. Alex Gracia, I think she needs a lot more seasoning. I know there's no indies right now, like too much, but there are indies out there. She needs to try to get as much work as possible. I saw that she moved to California, which, man, there's not much quality indies at least right now, but hopefully things will start running, get up and running soon. But right now, a lot of the rentals are here in California are very high. So the next match was Maserati versus Nicole Safoy. And this match just starts off with real bad comedy. Like Maserati like tells her that she's better than her, and she like shows her muscles and steps on her shoe. It's like, what is this, first grade? That's what it looked like, a first grade fight. And it just wasn't a good match. The finish looked good. Savoy's in a half Nelson suplex, and she got the win. The main event, Sumi Sakai, longtime Japanese women's veteran who lives here in the States, wrestled for ROH for a very long time, versus Roxy from Texas, a Booker T student who's only 19. They call it the Prodigy. And let me tell you, like, this thing fits. She's really good. She is going to be something. She gets it right away. And Sumi comes out and she like acts like, she's slapping high fives to the fans, and there's no fans there, so that was kind of stupid. I'm like, yeah, stop that crap. But this match was good, really good actually. Roxy went over, which is a great move because you got to put over some new stars, new faces, and if you're building a women's division, this is a really good girl to build around. I think she has a ton of potential, man. She's like I said, she is going to be a star. But this match was really well done. Sumi Sakai played that, veteran badass. She kept cutting off Roxy. Roxy's fighting from behind, and eventually Roxy gets the win. And I know, I just was really impressed by this, and that was the show. All three women's matches, first two not good. If you want to watch this show, I would just recommend the main event, and that was well worth my time. But the rest, it was just. Wasn't going well. Moving on, NXT UK. As a lot of people might know from who follow me on Twitter, and as I mentioned on Fight Game podcast on Wrestling Observer Network, that I'm a big supporter of NXT UK. I love the roster. I love the television show. They always have really good wrestling because all the people on that show are really good wrestlers. There's very few who just shouldn't be there, and there's a couple, but it's a small list, and the main events are just so well put together, and They're hard hitting. They're not in front of a crowd. They're at the BTS Sports Studio. And for me, it works. There's some crowd sweetening, but it's very light. Like you would think there's 50 people behind the hard can cheering and stuff. Like it's well done. But the main event of this week's show, I mean, I can't stress enough that you guys need to go out there and watch this match, because it was Jordan Devlin and A-Kid in a 30-minute Iron Man match. And Iron Man matches are tricky because a lot of people can be not interested because they know it's going to go a full 30 minutes. And some, they could be really interested from the first opening bell. And this was one of those matches. This is one of the better Iron Man matches I've ever seen. These guys did everything. They pulled out the stops. They're striking. Everything was crisp. Jordan Devlin he's so good. He is like big time star. He just carries himself like a star. I guess you could tell why Shawn Michaels just loves this guy, and he delivers. He gets it. A-Kid, he reminds me. I was trying to explain to someone. He has a very Bob Backlund vibe when it comes to the wrestling. Is really good, but unlike Bob Backlund, who can sometimes has that howdy doody geeky factor that a lot of people just didn't connect with him about. A-Kid has that cool factor. Like you this kid is a sensational grappler, has a ton of heart. You want to root for him, and this was just freaking awesome. I don't do star ratings anymore, but if I was gonna give one, I would say it's 5 for sure. Just because of the storytelling, which is just missing a lot of times. It's just spots for just doing spots and just to pop the crowd and not working to get them emotionally connected. And I'm gonna say to this, if this was in front of a crowd, it would have been just those crowds would have been on their feet towards the end of this, because that's how good it was. A-Kid got revenge on Jordan Devlin. Jordan Devlin injured him a few weeks ago in a really nasty leg lock. I don't know. I mean, A-Kid must be really flexible to pull it off. It just looked nasty. And he was, in a brace and all this stuff, and then he wanted revenge, and then that 30-minute Iron Man match was booked for a revenge of it, but it worked, and it was just freaking great. And I said that many times, and I wish I had been more colorful with what I was gonna say, describing it, but that's all I gotta tell you, man. Watch it. If you're a wrestling fan, you like wrestling for the work rate and what happens from bell to bell, there is no excuse for you to take some time, 30 minutes of your time, to watch this. It's gonna be 30 minutes really well spent. And I'm not saying watch the whole show. I know a lot of people are kind of down on WWE in general, but NXT UK does it right. But it's not all perfect at NXT UK, and I'm going to talk about that next. Sometimes what really frustrates me about NXT UK is they do these high production vignettes, and sometimes it's great, perfect, when Trent Seven was cutting weight to get down to 205 to face Jordan Devlin for the NXT UK Cruiserweight Championship. They had this really almost Rocky training vignette video, and was really good. This week, they had Isla Dawn, and she's the White Witch. She's kind of, now she's hearing voices and stupid shit like that. And this week, she's in the woods, and it's all looks like something from Game of Thrones, and she's burying something in the ground, and it's some kind of watch or some kind of bracelet or something, and apparently it's Amelia Mackenzie's bracelet. So, I mean, I don't know what that means. I hope it doesn't mean she's gonna curse her or something. It's just so stupid. Dude, don't leave that for the main roster stuff. You don't need that here. I know you're trying to do something, Isla Dawn, and she's fine. She's not the best, but she's she's a gatekeeper of that division, the women's division, and she could be. I mean, you could just get over her, Wiccan witch stuff in regular promos. She could talk about, how she talks to darkness or something. You could do it in a way where it's just not completely ridiculous. Another vignette they had was promo technically from Aoife Valkyrie, who's right now in a program with Jinny, who I feel Jinny is one of the best women's wrestler on the planet. And Aoife Valkyrie is a good up and comer. Like she's gonna be a future star. She's her time will come in the future, but she's extremely talented. But she's cutting this promo, and it's basically Jinny has a second, and that's Joseph Connors. And so he's been like interfering in matches. I think last week he did interfere, which helped Jinny defeat Aoife Valkyrie. So they're having a rematch. And at first I thought it was going to be a cage match, but it ended up being like a shark cage match with Joseph or a penalty box, whatever you want to call it, where Joseph Connors will be in that cage. But it's like she's cutting this promo, and she's another Game of Thrones like character. She has like the feathers and everything on her ring outfit jacket she wears, and it's just like so stylized. Like, just cut a promo, show the cage, what's gonna happen. Like, you don't need all this production, like it's just phony, and it takes you out of like what you're watching as like pro wrestling, and didn't like that as well. And then also they do stuff like I always make a joke on the Fight Game podcast where I say like NXT, like a lot of matches happen in the parking lot, like get booked in the parking lot the day of the NXT show. And like on an NXT UK television show, a lot of things happen just at the Performance Center, UK Performance Center. Like people just like confront people, and it's a match like next week. And they're doing what they can because the pandemic over there and the government stuff still really strict on them, obviously. And so a lot of stuff they have to film like a few days, I believe, like before they start recording and taping. So a lot of stuff's like quickly done. And another one on this show was Amel, who recently turned heel, had a good match with Miyako Satomura. She's like in the beauty chair, getting makeup done for some kind of shoot. But Nina Samuels, who's another heel, another vanity heel, I would say. She's always, thinks of herself as this beautiful, gorgeous star, and confronts Samuels about losing to Miyako and taking her spotlight, taking her opportunity. They get in a shoving match, and a match is signed next week. But they don't like introduce it. It's just like a little on the lower third, like, earlier this week or earlier today, and it's like, it'd be nice, like, you had the announcers, Andrew Shepard or Nigel McGuinness, the commentators, would just pitch it or something. Like, take a few 10 seconds to pitch it, or maybe have like an interviewer. Like, they don't have an interviewer. The interviewer that I've seen is only in the background. Like, they're like holding the camera, almost like POV style, and it's, you need a Mackenzie Mitchell, who's great on NXT. They need someone with credibility to handle the backstage stuff. I would like to see them add that. They had that before, and I don't know what happened to the gentleman that was doing it, but they need to get back to that instead of just like randomly just saying, graphic early in the day, and we see some kind of confrontation. Flash Morgan Webster had the same thing with Wolfgang. He just went up there and slapped him. So it's like that I would like to see cleared up. But when it comes to the in-ring stuff, dude, like, wrestling's great. And if you like wrestling, when it comes to bell to bell, like I said, you like work rate, competitive matches, like, this is a show for you and worth your time. And like I said, the roster's top notch. And soon we got some big matches coming up, like Mustache Mountain versus Pretty Delicate Tag Team title is going to be pretty damn freaking good. So I can't wait for that one. And also they're going to do a NXT Heritage Cup tournament, to a number one contenders tournament, and a lot of those guys in that tournament are pretty talented. Nathan Frazier, Noam Dar, Wolfgang's in that again. Mark Andrews, and I don't have the whole list. I apologize, I don't have the whole list, but great talents in that tournament. And so whoever's going to win that, I think it's probably going to be Nathan Frazier or Noam Dar, are going to be, either one will be great. They're great contenders for Tyler Bate, and they'll have a really good match. And finally, I watched Impact Wrestling. I know on our Patreon already, Impact is already covered really well with the Brace the Impact podcast with my buddy Mike Gilbert, my buddy JD Oliva. They do a freaking awesome show. I love it. I listen to it every week. I save it for my Saturday mornings and have my coffee and my breakfast, and I just sit there and listen to Breaks the Impact, and it's like one of my favorite traditions right now. And so, since the pandemic, or not, sorry, since the excuse me, my when it comes to Impact Wrestling, like I'm always in and out, like something would drive me insane, and I won't watch it for a while. Then I'll check it out here and there. Like when it was Pop, I checked it out there and then I got something pissed me off and I turned it off. Then when it was back on Anthem, bought it and the whole Access TV stuff, I tuned it in, but that Reality House thing or Impact House, whatever it was, like this fucking stupid show they put on was just embarrassing. So I stopped watching it. But, because we cover AEW on the Fight Game podcast, I decided, that when they shot the angle with Kenny Omega, winning the championship AEW, and then, by the help of Don Callis and saying he's going to Impact, I decided to check it out and cover it. And I've been watching ever since. And I've been enjoying the product. They kind of like scaled down on the goofiness. There's some stuff you're just like, okay, I got to skip this. But for the most part, it's very, very good. And they've done a really good job with the relationship opening up back up again with New Japan and the influx of talent, not only from some cuts from WWE that they've brought in, and New Japan's sending a talent like Finn Juice and Jay White and whatnot. Like it has really, really improved the show greatly. And this week, one of the big things was Chris Bay joined the Bullet Club with Jay White. That was a big deal. I think that's great. So that they're really using this New Japan relationship to benefit their stars, and it helps get Chris Bay over and as a major player, because Bullet Club, it's not as popular as once was. It's still a well-known faction, and I think it's definitely going to just help Chris Bay, and New Japan likes him because, they wouldn't invite him to their little junior tournament they had at New Japan Strong. He was the new Impact representative. So you could know that New Japan is already eyeing him. And so he's going to be a good fit there. And I really like that move. I like Chris Bay. I think he's a talented kid. And finally, the main event was Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers versus Eddie Edwards, Sami Callihan, and the Elite Hunter Frankie Kazarian showed up as a surprise last week. And they had a fun match, really good match. And Bayfaces went over. Eddie Edwards went over on Carl Anderson. He seems to be the fall guy of the Good Brothers group, and that's his job. And I liked it. Like, they could have put Kaz over, Frankie Kazarian over, or even Sami Callihan again, because he just wrestled Kenny Omega and came up short for the Impact title at one of their the last pay-per-view. But no, they went with Eddie Edwards, an Impact guy that's like synonymous with Impact Wrestling. And I thought that was a good move by them. I really did. And because it shows like, okay, we're going to benefit our company first and foremost. And even though we're getting all this help and it's a work relationship, like we still want to make sure Impact is the one that's comes out on top or is featured. And like a match like this, yeah, it's easy to maybe the heels can gone over and get some heat. But, I think it's a good move that, you put the Bay Faces over here, and especially Eddie Edwards. And it'd be nice to see him do some other things, but looks like he's still going to be involved with the former Big Cass, now W. Morrissey, because he came out and attacked him after the match and laid him out. And they just had a match at they have these Impact Plus, their streaming services specials, and there was called Homecoming. They had a hardcore match, and it was fine. Shockingly, Eddie Edwards won that one. I wouldn't have done that. I think W. Morrison, who's done a great job since his debut in Impact. He's really done a great job with promos, his work. They were really building him as a badass, and I thought like the win here was by Eddie Edwards was not the right call. I would like to see the momentum continue on, with W. Morrissey, and set him up for whoever does beat Omega. He can be one of the first guys to challenge that guy, and then he can lose. I know it's a small roster and people got to lose here and there, but it's, I'd invest in job guys and stuff, and let W. Morrissey continue to squash those guys and get little feuds and win those feuds, and then finally challenge for the championship of whoever it's going to be. Not Omega, because there's heel stuff wouldn't work. Whoever's going to dethrone Kenny Omega as Impact Champion, the first challenger would be W. Morrissey. If he's undefeated, you'd be like, oh shit, is he it's going to be a transitional thing? Is he going to win the title right away? But if you have real momentum behind who is the new champion, whoever does beat Kenny Omega for the Impact title needs to be someone you're really going to get behind. It can't be a quick thing, and I'm hoping that guy's going to be Josh Alexander. There's two guys I feel like are in the running for that. It's either Moose or Josh Alexander, and if you just want to get behind a guy, I think Josh Alexander is the guy to go with first. I think Moose is the perfect guy to beat Josh Alexander for that championship. But I just like that story of Josh Alexander, he's the X Division champion. The world title, the Impact title is in the hands of an enemy, right? An outsider. And I just really like that, he's the one defending the X Division title he's the Impact champion actually, because the outsider has it, right? So, and Kenny Omega has that deal with the belt collector gimmick, even though no one really talks about it anymore. I think it was only talked about for a couple weeks and then basically forgotten. They lost in the Impact on that part, pardon the pun there, but I, Bound for Glory, in my opinion, it should be Kenny Omega. It should be Josh Alexander, title for title, and at the end of Bound for Glory, it should be Josh Alexander holding both belts up and celebrating. And that's that, because I think at All Out, whoever he's Kenny Omega's in the face, Bryan Danielson or CM Punk, I think he should drop it there. And then once he drops the AEW title, then you're gonna see Kenny soon after that drop the Impact title. And I think Bound for Glory would be the show where he drops it. So yeah, this is my first episode of the Take It Home podcast. It's a nice title. I thought it was, as a former booker, and I had to make the call many times to referees to say, hey, take it home, or give my own personal sign. There's you can put a pen to your nose or wave the pencil. It's one of the working titles of the show. Or I used to sometimes stand up and walk from, stand up from my desk, which is kind of ways from the ring, and the ref would see me, and I was kind of leaning over to the side, and they would, give the call to go home. So many times I tell people to take it home, obviously. And so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you like this 30-minute quick hits on matches on various television shows, and I'm going to try to keep that consistent. I think a nice little 30-minute show on the Patreon would be great for people to pop in on the weekend. So give me some feedback. Hit me up on Twitter, LaRocca JL. Hit me up on Facebook Messenger, in the group. Let's, start a conversation about the show. And I hope you all like it. And I hope you continue to tune in and support this podcast. And so continue to support all the podcasts on the Fight Game Patreon network. And of course, I'm on another one as well, the 1997 Raw review with Gary Gonzalez. Those have been a lot of fun. And we're going to be covering SummerSlam and the Raw after SummerSlam from the 1997. So a lot of big stuff. Steve Austin injury, Bret Hart wins the championship. Things are starting to really heat up big time in the WWF at the time. So All right. Thanks very much. And I'll see you guys soon.